Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to the third part of the True Zenoiran Ironman run for Unicorn Overlord here. Okay, quick thing. Technically speaking, this is going to be a way shorter episode, and also it's not because it, well, ran into a normal game over, though also it depends on how pedantic you want to get with it. If you count the toddler suddenly picking up the Switch, running away, trying to eat off one of the thumb caps, and turning off pause, resulting in a game over, technically speaking, then it got one. But let's go ahead and continue on from there. Which, yeah, I mentioned before, it's a constant thing. If you have toddlers around, they will 100% try to eat those thumb caps. And good lord, our youngest just got into the super zoomy phase, so like at any given point, she just can appear around a corner, grab something, and just disappear with it. All those legends about gremlins had to come from somewhere, right? All right, so basically what's going on here is that I was trying to kind of fix a situation from last time. See, the core party that I was using was Elaine and Berengaria, which is obviously pretty freaking overpowered. Now, the thing is, I was kind of going for more of a roleplay kind of thing here. See, they were feeling pretty heartbroken. After all, suddenly their relationship was going pretty darn well. They ate so much cake together, and well, they just sort of up and disappeared to the enemy army. Granted, he knows exactly why, but we're just gonna pretend he's a moron. So that being said, there was actually a more gamey thing that was going on here in terms of the fact that I don't know if the same thing is going to happen as with what happened with Yana in one of the runs, where just on account of being technically classed as abducted for, this whole thing, I think there's a non-zero chance that whenever we do recruit her, that there's a chance that she might actually end up coming into the party incapacitated, which might end up maybe making sure that she's not there. But also this gave an excuse to actually do the whole thing that people were complaining about for a while and try to cheese the arena to see if it really was as intense as folks say it is, that you could just go in there with one dude and win every single fight. Yeah, not really. I mean, technically speaking, there's certain fights that you absolutely can cheese with a single thief, but frankly, there's enough stone walls in there that this is just good design. I mean, it basically, again, to go back to the old example of Armored Core, it's basically the equivalent of the number of units that you could potentially cheese by going and selecting the garage, and then the moment that you ran into one of the harder ones, they just wipe the floor with you. They're like, oh yeah, no, the garage is my favorite, thank you. As you suddenly eat 20 grenade rounds to the face. Yeah. God, at any time that anyone that tried to cheese Kaiser in AC3 on their first playthrough, or that tried to deal with somebody like Cypress or whatever else, are like, oh yeah, I'll gladly just go stab you in the face 28 times in a row. What's the problem with this map exactly? Oh man, folks that have not played Armored Core will be very confused right now, but it's basically this situation right here. Yeah, there's going to be certain fights you can cheese, but I would say it's a solid like 50-50 in my personal experience here. So I was going and playing around with different squads that were available at this point because I figured, you know what, if the Elaine in this universe was going after Berengaria, he's probably got a thing for the stronger ladies. So obviously, due to the fact that that I was cheesing the arena with Travis, as you do, I was kind of thinking, you know what, maybe Travis was feeling like playing Matchmaker that day. So he was just walking off with a few people here and there. He's like, oh, don't worry, boss, we just need these guys to go run some errands real quick, just going through the arena, trying to get Elaine hitched with the big lady that just showed up. Is it a stupid thing to roleplay? Yeah, sure, absolutely, but I thought it was pretty fun. Anyway, so there were a few fights that we were having some difficulty with, I would say. Definitely began to appreciate the Vanguard more and more and more. But effectively, what this process can be boiled down to is the fact that I kept going and improving the team, and then coming back and improving the team, and then coming back, trying to get those technical wins in every one of these different situations. So let's say, for example, originally I came in with just fighters. After a little while, we came back with Vanguards. After a little while, those druids weren't quite doing it, so we came back with shamans. Maybe it's the other way around, I don't remember. And then, obviously, Virginia ended up getting her promotion, and so on and so forth. Little by little, whittling away all the little bits and pieces until we could eventually achieve a technical win. And ultimately, despite going and attempting to cheese with this particular party over and over and over, the answer that ended up working out was setting everybody on fire. That's through a combination of the Vanguard going and absorbing arrows from this kind of mid arena team here, as well as Virginia getting a lot of free attacks. Though I will say it definitely was. I kept forgetting to do that improvement of getting her to not attack the Swordmaster, so they got an additional attack. Every time that this party would go through another fight, I would go through and think, oh yeah, no, I totally need to go get that done. I'm gonna go do it right now. And then I find some other improvement and then completely forget. And then like 27 improvements to the team later, do the exact same thing again as we run the test again. And once again, just nope, just completely forget and keep giving that guy free AP. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how opinions on the Swordmaster are either they suck or they're overpowered, and you rarely see stuff in the middle. Personally, I'm of the opinion that yes. Anyway, no, I think that they're a really darn good unit, but again, just personal opinion on that. So again, what I was trying to do here was just set everybody on fire over and over and over, because I couldn't really damage them through too many normal means, but I could potentially break through a lot of their kind of passive abilities and whatnot. I did try running Travis with PP Steel and whatnot, but I mean, the dude ended up dying to True Strikes over and over. Basically, any True Strike team ended up becoming another brick wall, as it typically does to that particular strategy, so we actually had to try for a little bit. But again, it feels satisfying to have those little leaps, and it feels like the rewards are typically on the same level, though in this particular case, I'm not 100% sure that a, Shawl of Repose or whatever is necessarily that amazing for this particular fight, if I recall the reward correctly. But yeah, blindness from Sandstorm. We got counterattacks from Virginia. We got arrow guards from Colm over there, and then just Sylvie doing her setting everybody on fire thing. It was working pretty well. I think this might have been the moment that I finally... No, it wasn't. But she did finally get through his defenses, so that's something. Was this finally the one that did it? Because there were a lot of attempts at this. Like, a solid majority of this episode was just this fight. Because I just kept forgetting to do that particular upgrade to a pretty comical degree. How many times did this take? Let's see. Is this a win? Is this a win? Is this a win? Is this a win? Oh yeah, that was eventually the win. There we go. That was the one. Okay, so I think it was finally landing that shield bash that did it. Oh yeah, right, because I noticed that I had run Colm without too many useful abilities at this point. And then at that point it was the shield bash going and preventing him from acting, and then eventually allowing for certain units to get broken down earlier. I was trying to get the Griffin taken out, because Virginia was consistently taking out the Swordmaster. And Fire was typically finishing the job. Eventually they got a technical win. Who knows why? It probably was by 1 damage or something. Don't know, don't care. They died, moving on. Now, is it technically against the rules that this arena thing has a team getting wiped over and over, and they're not necessarily taken out? I don't think so. I mean, on the enemy side, they clearly keep coming back. Hell, they even come back with promotions after you're confirmed to have killed them in the post-arena. So that doesn't feel like much of anything. Oh yeah, and this was when I had completely forgotten about just how just how good warriors can be. That despite his, I think, like 150 or something evasion at this point, and despite having evade on top of that, yeah, basic warrior was just like, yep, mallet time, smack. It's just such a solid no you moment. Really just made me appreciate that class more and more. I mean, just all of the kind of warrior variants definitely kind of suffer in the early game, but man, once stuff gets going for them, they're just a train. Like, no, just choo choo. This giant hammer's coming through. Good times. But yeah, this just kind of went on. Eventually, this kind of Virginia, Colm, and Shaman situation was more or less able to even the playing field against most things. Even if she ended up getting taken out, her defensive skills were solid enough that between Colm kind of tanking for everybody else, between a few kind of passive heals I put on the team and whatnot, they were typically holding up well enough to function. And as always, you start off every new fight by throwing Travis in there, just to see if you can skip it. He has the skip button, and it's very, very funny to see him repeatedly dodging everything, especially when there's casters. I think the animation for him dodging fireballs is just some of the funniest shit in this game. Like, all he does is just beep, 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 beep. It just does not get more amusing. This is basically just the nice little rest mode between the harder fights. It's just fun to watch. Even if it's just one dude dodging over and over, it just looks so goofy. I love it. Funnily enough, this one actually did fail a couple of times because of the fact that he didn't actually roll all of his dodges. But in this particular attempt, he didn't even proc evade once. The entire time was just Agent Travis going all Matrix on this shit. So that was fun. And then we got stuck on Royal Knights for a while, as you do, which the Royal Knights are really the Armored Core 3 Kaiser of this particular one to some extent. It's like, oh, here's this really heavy-hitting warrior in the back, here's this very heavy tank in the front. Technically, very simple premise, but how are you going to deal with it? And the reason that I say it's so similar, just like Kaiser in that particular situation, you got the dude with the really thick armor. You're not taking him head on. You try to take him from far away, and then you suddenly realize that there's about 60 missiles headed straight to your face. You've got the Swordmaster back there. That's basically the split howitzer, just kind of taking you by surprise when you thought you had everything else figured out. And then finally, you got the warrior there. That's the nice happy EO that's happy to stick around above the party the entire time until it suddenly comes to finish the fight after you thought you ran him out of ammo. Have I played Armor Core 3 too much? Yeah, probably. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue on. So, this went for a different shielding strategy at this point, where went and upgraded to 2 Legionnaires. If you're wondering why Hodrick isn't here, he is dead. So yeah, not that there's anything particularly special about Hodrick in that case, but it is what it is. It's funny, I keep wanting to use double Legionnaire squads, and more often than not, I just end up not wanting to. As soon as they end up coming into play, it always feels like they have a counter that's just there to steamroll them real good, that even if you build them for magical defense, then somebody's like, no, surprise, hammer time. I mean, I know it's kind of like they have to have a counter, but like right there, like it just always feels like the counter really, it makes them really unsatisfying to me. But it is what it is, and that hurts me to say because I love spear units. But yeah, I kept hoping that the evade would counter that hammer a lot better, but surprisingly, they're able to just completely bypass evade in a lot of situations. I'm not, truth be told, I'm really not 100% why outside of True Strike, which I don't know, maybe they do get it in some situation here, and I'm just missing it. Ultimately, I think it was this Griffin setup that ended up doing the job, where we had the Legionnaire that was doing a good job of guarding through that charge attack with a combination of evade. The Flyer was generally better at dealing with the hammer. And at a certain point, I ended up swapping him out for Travis, because eventually he was just getting run down anyway, so finally it was just, okay, fine, high evasion on everybody, forget armor exists. I guess we're just going to be stubborn about this. And sure, part of it is just due to the fact that they're about, I don't know, double, triple almost our level at this point, so, I mean, this is not an even playing field by any description, but, whatever, it's fine. So, yeah, stuff ends up going pretty well at this point, and also, apparently the mailman has arrived, because there is suddenly a bunch of barking. One quick moment. Alrighty, so, finally back. Sorry, there was a little bit of a dog and mailman situation that was all sorted out. Unfortunately, yeah, every time they go and drop stuff off, the dog is just kind of completely up in his business there. So, this team is a surprising little kind of tricky bunch. It's a nicely built squad here. So the reason that it's difficult is because that Legionnaire is typically able to cover for everybody around. You've got the classic combo of the Sainted Knight covering for the Hoplite, preventing him from getting his one shot from magic, and additionally you have most kind of lighter infantry like your thieves and whatnot typically getting taken out by that Swordmaster. Additionally, you've got your nice happy end of the day surprise with that big old meat mallet coming in, buffing themselves the entire round, coming in for one big old finish, as well as lots of technical wins coming from that row heal from the Sainted Knight, as well as the two-tile charge from the Great Knight there. So this makes them extremely tanky. Their most vulnerable places in the back, and even then they're typically getting covered by the Legionnaire. So I was going back for more kind of burninating action from the Shaman here, attempting to blind them from multiple locations. Unfortunately, the Legionnaire kept blocking those blindness attacks from the Thief, but they can't block a Sandstorm, and once again, unfortunately, they get a absolute ton of actions, so they typically can shake it off before the end of it. It really does not take much from them to be able to actually get a win to happen. But ultimately, it was this team here with the kind of multi-layered evasion, as well as the sandstorm, as well as the fire, as well as well, even more fire, frankly. So basically, we took next to no damage, avoided all of the charges. That's mostly where their technical wins were coming from. But eventually, the burning had to overcome the row heal in order to be able to actually achieve a technical win in that respect. Eventually, everything got dodged. Also, then had one of the support conversations that's probably one of the funniest things I've read in this game so far. There was this fan art thing somebody had posted on the Reddit a while back. I was like, you know what? That's a funny concept of her popping out of a tent and like the skimpiest. Don't do it. There's things the world's not meant to see. Oh man. Like I didn't understand the context of why people found that so funny, and now I do. Like they got one of the most wholesome characters in the game, and then they're like, "Here, would you like to try this ultra skimpy bikini?" Like, "Oh, it's the wrong size. Can I give it a shot?" Like maybe it's my size, and then it turns out the problem wasn't the size; it's the fact that there's basically no material there. It's it's one of those moments where this game is really good at threading that line between like almost going into kind of creeper territory, which Fire Emblem tends to just charge straight through, and then just stopping at just the right moment to keep everything just as wholesome as you'd hope it would be. Anyway, again, it's just nice. It's nice to see. So we get to appreciate more amazing Dragonhold music because, of course, we do. Lots of ranged assists from this one, whatever rando map this was. But there were a lot of teams that were rebuilt over the course of this arena fight. We ended up boiling down to a lot more effective teams, and oftentimes they were definitely more offense than defense orientated, so there were definitely more rebuilds after this. But this Robert team in particular had a tendency to be a bit of a absolute beefer for a bit of a while there. But they were doing okay, just okay. Unfortunately, one of the things that did become a logistical problem with that whole arena cheesing thing was the fact that a bunch of different items were thrown all over the place. And truth be told, I would actually class it more as not actually being cheese to begin with. Like I know that's typically the term that's been used for it, but there's nothing cheesy about that arena per se. It's literally just using mechanics as they were intentionally intended. It's using the tools that were there for those particular situations. Going back to the old Armored Core 3 example, like that's basically the reason nobody really judges you if you do the whole garage method, because, I mean, they agreed to fight there. That's on them. So, either way, it is what it is. Anything goes, as they say. It is kind of weird that they don't make you go up and down as much, but that's what the online is more. Or online is for, rather. So after that, just proceeded to do a bit more exploring to see if I could find any more tools, because really what I was looking for was some kind of conferral thing. I went into this whole thing for some reason thinking I had a poison conferral tome, even though that I don't think that's anywhere near here. Because I wanted to basically have both fire and poison, thinking that that would break through that front line. Ultimately ended up going for a simpler answer, but still, it was nice. So with all of that being said, we then proceeded to go, again, clear more and more of these little maps. This is where that conversation with Elaine's ex would have happened, if, you know, she didn't up and disappear and defect to the other side through totally intentional means. I don't know what you're talking about. We're just going to continue misunderstanding this on purpose. Don't question me. It makes it fun. I love the design on the water tiles, by the way. Like, if you never noticed, the rim of the tiles that you're on will actually change depending on your locations. I really like the water one. Oftentimes, oftentimes the terrain just doesn't get the respect you'd assume it would deserve in strategy games. I always love a good water tile. Anyway, so at this point was considering going for Shadow Bite here, thinking that would have been the answer, because with the Sandstorm doing the thing earlier and the Poison not quite doing the thing earlier, maybe that was the answer. It wasn't. Actually, alright, I forgot about this. The Swordmasters were the answer. So this was the moment that I kind of fell back in love with Swordmasters. Back in my first run, I remember like legitimately fearing them every time they would come up anywhere, but was constantly in this situation that I was mostly just looking at them as a kind of direct DPS unit rather than, the interesting defensive utility, absolute machine gun unit that they are. So in this particular case, what I did was I gave poison swords in the offhand, and additionally gave that fire back to the shamans. So the idea was that they would be able to do double dots against the front line there. They would be able to deflect away the attacks, and then hopefully, with enough parries as well as enough evades, they would be able to repeatedly re-up these buffs again and again and again and again, to the point that they would just basically melt. That we would be able to get insane numbers. But the issue was, and the reason that we kept getting the shaman booty shake, is that, well, I had them in the wrong formation. So then it was finally redone here, where I had Melisandre in the front, Leia in the back, and went ahead and had them take the charge, because the charge is programmed to always go after a row, so they will go after both those swordmasters. They're stacked for blue points to be able to take a bunch of attacks, as well as high evasion from Melisandre there. I think I did Heaven Swing and Poison on her, something like that, so that she would have enough evasion to be able to keep her parries nice and safe. But the idea was, again, that they would keep stacking these burns, hopefully up to level 3, which would be enough to melt them down. So again, high evasion, high deflection, they sort of became the advanced thief, as it were. And really that's kind of their whole thing. Against a lot of things, they really are just kind of advanced thief for late game to an extent. Even though technically, yeah, the rogue does that too, and they do it in their own way, and they do it well, but either way, deflect plus evade, or deflect plus just high evasion is just really, really reliable. Especially in these situations where those dots were managing to do the whole tactics ogre thing of getting past the healing. You love to see it. But with this combination, this meant that we could set both rows on fire, give both rows the dots, and then eventually the higher health and higher burn coming out of the front line here would allow a technical win, because they threw the row heal at the back. So anyway, probably a way more complicated than necessary approach to get to the kind of Krispy Kreme in the center here, so to speak, but hey, it worked. Anyhow, so then we go meet Big Lady, and immediately stuff goes fantastically. Nothing went wrong here at all. Just don't look at the screen too much. It's fine. Travis totally just won this completely by himself at the first attempt. And nothing went wrong. And anyway, this coffee's great. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Man, that animation is so freaking goofy, though. So yeah, he's already proven that he can basically dodge everything, with a hit rate of 1%, by the way. 14% for that heavy slam there, 34% for that fireball, and gets his accuracy up. This time they go for 14. That's what it was. It was actually one last fireball that ended up clipping him. So he can do it. He can do it just fine. It's just the fact that that 34% rolled. Did I end up trying other things? I want to say I tried a few other things at this point. Did I just... yeah, for some reason I was thinking that it was some passive or something that was doing it. Whatever. I mean, technically it was. It was the accuracy buff on the caster that was doing it. But either way, this did the job just fine. Because he wasn't actually burned through his evades. It's just that... Actually, was he burned through his evades? He might have done. But he ended up just getting unlucky and getting completely wiped in that situation. So that's fun. Gotta love those moments when you change something, you don't know why it caused you to get your ass kicked, but it just sort of did. Yeah, there's gonna be very little actual, like, Iron Manning in this particular bit of the Iron Man here. Just because, again, safe areas are going to be safe. I love safe minigames in situations like this. It just kind of gives you a nice little just place to screw around with while you build your team. And then he died to a 14%, as you do. But yeah, then we'll go ahead and try it again, because, frankly, eventually we'll end up getting it. You know, sometimes you roll those 14%, 50 times or whatever, in a row or whatever it takes. But it turns out the problem was me. The problem was that I had evade set to 75% due to a tricky thing from a little bit ago. During one of the fights, the issue was that I wanted to use a power belt to have him tank, and then from there use evasion every other time. It was that fight back with the Swordmasters. And that didn't end up working because it was too much damage that he was taking on the initial attack. But it basically meant that he actually wasn't using his evasion. It's not that he wasn't stealing enough. So if you're wondering why he was purely running on evasion up to this point and not the evade skill itself, then yeah, that would be why. I just stayed as stupid. It happens. And away we go. So yeah, they do the choppity chops. He does his steal, and as you'd kind of expect, everything goes great at this point because they don't really have any odds to hit him in any situation. Even in those situations where they would hit, he just rolls and evade, and that's about it. Um, or at least that's the way it's supposed to work. He ended up still getting clipped by one of those fireballs, which is always fun. I forgot that this happened a second time. Apparently, it prevents the first one, but the second ones have to dodge naturally or something. I don't know. I don't actually know why that caused them to get clipped there. Oh well, it's fine. Sometimes you play through a game multiple times and only kind of understand the mechanics. It's fine. It's completely normal. All right. But this time's going great. He's taken no hits, and he will proceed to take no hits. But it's just fun to again watch that goofy fireball animation. Like, how is he even moving like that? He's just like doing multiple flips in the air. I think he's doing the movie thing of just doing multiple sideways flips or something. And then she gets a bit upset, or rather, her ghosts get upset, or something. And all Elaine is thinking is just how interested he is in this whole situation. And yeah, upwards and onwards. So I was thinking, like, I completely forgot about the fact that she has a true strike buff at this point. So the answer was pretty simple. Like, oh, I'm just gonna throw Travis in there again. Surely he'll just be able to handle it on his own. He didn't. I mean, he eventually kind of sort of did, but that's a whole other thing. But he dodged the initial thing. He got the darkness in there to make that attack miss. She took the guaranteed hit, and he got vaporized from existence. All right. Actually, interestingly enough, it's funny to me that they actually named her the Dreadnought, considering the original kind of origins of the name there, because she's not actually that tanky. Like, she should be tanky. It always feels like she's less tanky than she ought to be. Oh, wait. Anyway, so he ended up getting that off. She no longer has her guaranteed buff. And yeah, that's kind of about it. As long as you can use enough kind of initiative items to allow him to get his steal off first, he just wins that thing. So, you know, maybe he still felt bad about his sister betraying everybody. That's what I'm going to go with. We get the fancy new medal, which lets us do fancy new things, and she goes and joins the party. And even in this situation, they give the absolutely gigantic lady the chicken legs, but let's get on to it here. So, with that said, that was about it for the limited safe dying that we can do over the course of this run. Basically, now we actually have to get into the proper dangerous areas. But the first order of business, the clearest order of business, was to clearly go into the tavern and start everybody eating some cake. By everybody, I mean them too, because Elaine was suddenly getting back into the dating scene. About to go date somebody twice his level, you know. Probably not twice his age or something, maybe, I don't know. That might be in the lore there somewhere. But it's fine, they had cake. And then we went to the Hilda thing, and we can't actually recruit Hilda, at least I don't think we can, because her sister kind of got killed earlier, so whoopsie. But they're off putting down a rebellion as they do. I don't think they're going to do a whole lot of looking back at much of anything, but hey, what can I say about it? Okay. So in this one, we basically took all of the freshly rebuilt champion teams from the arena and proceeded to go kind of absolutely nutty on the rest of Drakenhold here, as you'd kind of expect. Actually, even at only 15 minutes, I think this has already taken a little bit of a while. You've probably seen these cutscenes. Let's go ahead and proceed on here. So you got a lot of flyers, you got a lot of towers, you got a lot of dudes with a lot of support fire, as you kind of expect. However, due to, well, being a bit better equipped at this point, you'd think that we would just immediately steamroll. In the case of Elaine's squad, kind of, mostly, against some things, they're able to roll pretty effectively. But yeah, their issue is stamina, so they're going to end up getting bogged down and basically getting stuck there for the whole rest of the fight. We've got units that are still going to be susceptible to artillery fire, and they're still going to be having issues from supports. In fact, one of our best supports, or one of our best squads at this point, is actually going to be Fran's team, running around with Scarlet, the Griffin, as well as we'll see what they are in just a moment. But yeah, we had Yana's team, Fran's team, and Robert, the Berserker's team. Main issue that they were running into was the constant support fire. At this point, they only take a few seconds to fire a second volley at you, which is obviously a little bit of a complication there. But this was another one of those champion teams that ended up surviving pretty darn well, with Liza up in the front with her quick shot. Everybody else is just kind of going for repeated auto shots and what have you. Basically, this is just pure DPS, fire everything downrange and question nothing kind of a situation. As well as a guard hunter over on Yana there to go prevent any kind of arrow guards, as it were. And then we get the Ogre Battle Trident with the lightning ability on a Trident. I love that that's a thing. For those folks that are just kind of just coming from Unicorn, never played an Ogre Battle, the old Valkyrie was the original like spear caster unit. So like imagine the soldier in this one, right? Now imagine instead of javelin they had a lightning strike, and then that lightning strike got widened once they got promoted. And their whole deal was just like, if you had them in the front row, they would stab with a spear. If you had them in the back row, they would throw out this lightning attack. And the main reason that you would use them is because if some of them got injured, you would have to go swap their positions in the team around so that now they're safer and can switch over to a caster role instead. It's kind of Ogre Battle was a bit more about getting your teams refreshed rather than kind of continuing on as you do in Unicorn a lot of the time. There was less time pressure, but there was more logistical pressure. So like you'd have those moments where you just have to go protect 4 towns at once, and you just have to sacrifice one of them because you simply don't have the HP left on everybody to keep that fight going. So in this case, they're going for a similar feeling with the stamina, and for the most part, it does actually achieve the same result. You don't have as dire of a feeling when that stuff happens, which I mean, for most people, I would say is probably overall overall kind of a more logical thing. Anyway, so they go and they evacuate everybody from here because of the plague, even though we brought the plague cure with us, but I guess we're just not going to use it. But that's fine, whatever. It's probably not the same plague, but I did miss this bit of lore the first time around. Essentially the other folks here were the ones that put the plague out there. So these guys were originally the most defensive, which is ironic because they're kind of the most beaten up. But oh well, they're definitely the beginning zone, as it were. Though it is nice to see how far they can get on fairly basic stuff. Yeah. Something about keeping order. Fair enough. Alright, so my plan at this point was to just get kind of final preparations done to go and take the capital back. Since at this point we're running a pretty darn powerful team, we're getting pretty close to getting that A rank on Renown, get our 5-man teams and whatnot. It's starting to get to be around that time. So, first thought was that I needed to just kind of claim the rest of the towns in the region here. Mostly just in case there were any little hidden things I was missing, but went ahead and grabbed a few extra units while I was here. Because I started realizing, you know what, I really should just be buying out every fortress that I run into, seeing as if we lose anybody, we're going to want replacements, and it's not like their level's going to go up over time. So we might as well just grab them while we're here, you know? And I figure we at least have them in the back row there in case anything happens. So we put Amalia off to the side, go ahead and see how the gift mechanic is going to work. Truth be told, I don't actually know if it blocks off anything in particular, but basically just, yeah, went ahead and threw whatever the hell we had laying around, and she's like, okay, sounds good to me. Actually, I was a little bit surprised that she only had one talking scene. For a lot of the other characters, you've got conversations going on throughout the entire time. She's literally only got the one. I mean, I guess she's a hidden character, so sure, why not? But whatever, it's fine. So I'm going to get them two hitched because it's funny, and I'm sure the cutscene's funny, and, you know, insert snoo joke here. It's amusing. Like, it's just kind of adorable that you can basically pair them up with just about anybody. I'm sure a bunch of the results are just kind of hee-hee-ha-ha moments, but still, it's just cool to see. Anyway, At this point, we move on to the onto the black market shop. Actually, interestingly enough, I didn't even have the money to, or didn't have the parts to go get into this particular black market shop on my first playthrough, and just kind of completely forgot about it by the end. I think it's actually still there, just not doing anything yet. Don't know. But exploration continued. No real significant losses or anything this time around. I don't think we actually lost any teams as of so far. I guarantee that's going to change, and I was really expecting that to change during this fight over here. So, is this the one I'm thinking of? It's either this one or the next one. Let's see. Alright, what do we got here? Oh no, this is one of the simple ones. This is just a quick move and clear map. Though we did almost lose Fran's team here, actually. So his team is pretty resistant to a lot of things at this point, obviously. Main problem with Amalia on there is despite the fact that she's got that True Strike ability, she doesn't seem to use it that often, at least not very quickly. Probably should give her more initiative or something. She's mostly just running the stuff that she came with. But I keep forgetting to use the mirror on her. So the plan was to go give her some funny color scheme, give her way more initiative, and kind of just see how that comes up, because that True Strike plus that heavy-hitting double shot ability is insanely good. But yeah, she big, she slow. Alright. Oh yeah, Gloucester got his own team at this point, just pretty much raw evasion and DPS on them. Oh yeah, so what I did with Gloucester is actually something that I thought was a little bit clever. There's one of the two moments that we almost lost Fran in this fight. But I gave Gloucester the life share shield, and the cool thing is that that triggers automatically. So oftentimes you can actually get him sweeping very quickly. If for example you have several other units on the way, he life shares every one of those units, and he'll oftentimes give away more health than he needs, which is usually an annoyance of that particular shield. But in this particular case, it allows him to set himself up for his big sweeps way quicker. So I think we'll see more of that in a little bit, and/or those clips are lost. Fantastic, cool, great to see that. I was a little worried about going into the big fight at this point because I know that there's still that one with the with that one kind of friendly team at some point out here. That honestly, more so than the capital, that's the one I'm worried about, because that does feel like the very hard potential for an instant loss in this run under the rule set I had here, and I know it's specifically why Legman's run, they had that rule on there for just not accepting bullshit losses. There's one particular map in Dragonhold here where if you if you end up getting to the NPCs faster than the game expects, they basically just instantly die. But if you don't get there fast enough, they will slowly die. And the thing is, you have to basically get up there and interrupt them somehow so that they don't end up attacking them. I don't know if provoke is potentially a good way to solve that, maybe, but either way, we'll see that when we get there. For the time being, I felt a bit more confident in taking the North Gate here, so that's what we went for. And yeah, is this the other time we almost lost Fran's unit? Or no, it became Bernadette's unit, because Fran is out on a suicide rush right now. I love how the NPC versions just ditch all of their items. And then they're just like, nope, nope, we don't need any of this equipment. Absolutely none of it whatsoever. We need our basic Rose equipment. That's about it. This is a great idea. Yep, yep. So Robert's team, if you're wondering why they're performing so much worse than before, despite more or less being the same team, it's because I took off a lot of items from them and didn't realize. So that ends up getting corrected later. But for the time being, they're going to suffer quite a bit, because he was near invincible before. The idea was that it was a combination of evasion in the front, and then bulk healing in the back, and then big ol' sweeps, as you'd kind of expect. You know, Berserkers are kind of fun like that. But then you go ahead and give a magic conferral, as well as a accuracy boost from your witches, and good stuff happens. Turns out that not having to worry about accuracy is pretty fantastic with them. So we did what you would expect here. Had Joseph trying to catch up to have that conversation to get Virginia the hell out of here before they got swept. At which point they almost got flattened by another catapult, as you do. this whole map, they're like just barely avoiding catapults. You gotta love it. It is a bit more on the scripted set PC side, but it's just fun to see. They really do a lot of fun stuff with this one. As they get yet another follow-up shot over there. That was probably the most points I've ever seen from a single catapult drop. Because even the ones that you get in that really big track and hold map don't give you that much towards your meter. So either way, love to see it. But if you take all the catapults early in this map, it's the direct fight is not really too much of a problem. Some of the guards holding in the towns are a bit more difficult, but for the most part, high offense teams are pretty effective here. Catapults will typically be good at cleaning up everything else, and oftentimes many of the hidden units will be fairly obvious, so you can just hit them with catapults before they get a chance to really do very much. Ultimately, we ended up deploying just about the entire team here. And yeah, even Robert's team eventually ended up getting back into it a little bit. I actually completely forgot about this one town by the front, so they've just been sitting there resting for who knows how long. But it's a very quick map, despite the amount of chaos going on. Let's see. Lots of free archer summons all over the place, because they decided that Gloucester's team just needed to have a bunch of archer support. That was actually the other thing. So his team in particular, he does give away a lot of his health with life share. That's part of the reason that he's got a lot of archer support, in hopes that it would be able to kill off any kind of speedy ranged units before they have a chance to threaten him, but it varies. It varies. Overall, they've been pretty consistent, though, so can't really complain. We have that one archer squad that I keep missing over and over because I'm not leading the shots enough, but it's fine. You know, they're doing okay enough. They're doing exactly okay and nothing more. But the nice thing is, if you end up taking the catapult here, you can go ahead and start sniping the boss before anything gets too serious. So we use a blade wave here to start clearing away this area. We have the cavalry go in to take that town, and then we use the catapults to clear up basically everybody else. And that about sums it up. Like, this goes on for a few more clips, I'm certain. But eventually we have Joseph... Actually, let's go back one, because it was funny what he did there. Eventually we have Joseph do the ping-pong dance in there. He goes down the pocket, gets the kill for himself. Simple enough. Still no casualties, but came very dang close, courtesy of a lot of those archer towers. And I'm really hoping we don't completely run out of party slots once we get to Albion. Because that place loves its archer ambushes, regardless of how good your team is. And this is roughly where my team was at the first time that I went through, so... Alright, so yeah, we do the Wild Rush to get directly into him, and if you get knocked behind him, you can do the classic ping-pong maneuver. And what's especially funny is that they'll have the whole conversation over, oh no, we're gonna have so little time to get out of this situation, even though everything is over within, like, half a second. It's funny how his helmet looks a little bit cracked, actually. Oh no, it's too narrow to dodge, they're totally gonna fire. They never get a chance to fire. I never actually have seen this guy's dialogue yet, because I keep skipping over the first fight and then watching the second one. But that map ends up getting cleared, as you do. Virginia celebrates an execution well done, apparently. I think she's actually the only character to actually gloat about executing someone, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, that thing's got to give her some serious back problems to carry around, like, hot damn. Anyway, they reminisce, as they do. I love how they actually bothered putting the foam on the water here. No one asked them to, but hot damn, they were going to do it anyway. Anyway, picked up another Arbalester, as well as a House Carl, as well as a few other randos, picked up some more equipment, and then went mining, and that's really kind of about it. That's just kind of where we're at for this one. So, yeah, because we're already back to the videos at the very start here. So, that's about that. That's Ironman Run Part 3. Yes, it was mostly in a completely safe area, and very little danger was actually had until Fran was almost wiped out multiple times. Could I have summed that up in about 5 minutes? Yeah, sure, could have. Anyway, have yourselves a good one. See you in the next one.